how do you truly define success when you're, starting something new or taking on a big project? Is it all about those immediate flashy results, or is there maybe some hidden foundational work that, well, nobody really sees, but it determines everything else? Welcome to the deep dive. Today we're really getting into it, exploring a powerful framework called the seed phase. And it's not just a catchy name, it really emphasizes the groundwork, the non-negotiables of prayer, people, and presence. The argument is this stuff is essential for any kind of lasting impact. Our deep dive today draws on some incredible insights from Chris R. Velasquez. We're talking discussion questions, reflective exercises, practical applications, all accompanying his work, the preparation before the pulpit. It's really designed to push leaders, maybe like you, beyond just surface thoughts towards, real actionable insights. It's about getting informed on what truly builds legacies that last. So our mission for you listening in is to kind of shortcut you to understanding the value of this hidden prep work. It definitely challenges common ideas about progress and gives you things you can actually use if you're seeking deep, sustainable growth. Okay, so Velasquez's work really makes you rethink how we usually approach starting something new, doesn't it?
It really does. It's fascinating. The framework pushes for this big reevaluation.
Yeah.
It shifts the focus from, let's say, the quick visible wins to something much deeper. Foundational strength, long-term sustainability. It makes you ask, what really supports something lasting?
Right.
Rather than just what looks good right now. It's like focusing on the roots, not just the fruit you see immediately.
The root's not the fruit. I like that. That's a really strong image. So Velasquez kicks off with this idea, the power of the unseen, why the seed phase is non-negotiable. But for leaders, especially those maybe driven by metrics, visible progress, how do we even start to value what we can't immediately see or get credit for?
Yeah, that's the core challenge, isn't it? He introduces this concept he calls strategic invisibility. The basic idea is that, well, truly faithful leadership often involves a ton of hidden work that, by its nature doesn't get applause right away.
Yeah.
And it throws this question at you, the leader. Would your leadership still be faithful if nobody ever clapped for that hidden stuff?
Oof, that's a tough one.
It is. And it's not just theory. There are reflective exercises, like a strategic invisibility audit. It makes you look at your work and identify, okay, what parts are visible but maybe a bit shallow, and what parts are invisible but actually really deep and foundational. And then the challenge is to deliberately take one activity, one ministry thing, and put it beneath the surface, strengthen it deeply, before you even think about making it public.
So prioritize depth over display.
Exactly. Depth over display.
Okay.
That's compelling. But let me play devil's advocate for a second. Isn't there a risk? If you focus too much on the unseen, could leaders end up neglecting the visible progress that you sometimes need for, say, buy-in or funding, especially early on?
That's a totally fair point, and I think the framework sort of addresses that implicitly. The emphasis isn't on never having visible progress. It's about getting the foundation solid first. The integrity of the unseen comes before the visible.
Think about building a skyscraper, right? You wouldn't rush pouring the concrete deep underground just because you're eager to see the shiny glass go up on floor 50.
Right, makes sense.
The visible part comes after the invisible structure is absolutely secure. And the analogy Velasquez uses is perfect. Quote, if your church's success was measured by its roots rather than as fruit, how would you lead differently today?
Wow.
It's a complete shift in thinking. It suggests that actually stronger roots ultimately lead to way more resilient, more abundant fruit down the line.
That really does reframe everything. Okay, so if these unseen roots are getting stronger quietly, what does Velasquez say is the absolute powerhouse, the engine room for the whole mission? Because let's be honest, for a lot of people, prayer feels like maybe a warm-up or something you do before the real work starts. How does he flip that?
Oh, he flips it completely. The framework is really clear. Prayer is the foundational work. It's the greatest strategy, not just a prelude.
The actual work.
Yes, the actual work. It's the engine room, because that's where the real power, the real direction comes from. There's this exercise, mapping your prayer foundations, which is super practical. It asks you as a leader to literally chart out your current week. Where is prayer actually integrated? And maybe more importantly, where is it just not there? And it's not about making you feel guilty. It's about getting a clear, factual picture of what your real priorities look like on paper.
That's a huge mental shift. But I can almost hear someone thinking, okay, but how is that practically different from just, having good intentions? Does Velasquez give any examples or suggest scenarios where prayer directly changed things beyond just making someone feel better?
Well, he strongly implies it. The framework argues that prayer actively shifts atmospheres. It can open doors, unexpected doors in ministry or projects that no amount of human strategy could ever force open.
Okay.
So it urges you to approach every decision, every challenge, first through intercession, not as step 5 after you've tried everything else. Imagine hitting a major roadblock, right? Maybe a community that's just not receptive or serious friction within your team. The framework suggests instead of immediately scrambling for a new plan B, the first move is intense, specific prayer. Prayer for unity, for cultural understanding, for those doors to open. The 7-day prayer rhythm application isn't just generic prayer time. It's focused intercession for concrete things. Team health, cultural insight, spiritual resilience, and that shift in atmosphere.
Yeah.
It could look like an unexpected opportunity popping up, or maybe key people suddenly softening their stance, or a clear path forward appearing where there was just fog before. It's really about trusting divine action as strategy number 1.
That's a really profound thought. Okay, so moving from the engine room, who's actually driving this thing, how does Velazquez talk about the leader's role, especially vision? What if your vision isn't just about what you want to do, but more about who you're called to become in the process? How would that change your goals?
Yeah, this is super important for leaders. The framework really pushes us past just personal ambition. It's about telling the difference between a genuine divine calling and maybe just your own ambition, or even, comparing yourself to others.
That's tricky.
It is. There's an exercise called clarifying call versus ambition that hits this head on. It basically has leaders write down their core motivation. Why are you leading this? And then reflect. Okay, what parts feel truly rooted in a calling? And what parts might be coming from a desire for recognition or success or just trying to keep up? For you, the listener, the source really emphasizes creating a vision statement prayer, something to constantly tie your mission back to its core purpose. Keep it grounded. It also talks about identifying resilience-building practices. Things like regular reflection, spiritual disciplines, maybe having trusted mentors, stuff that sustains your conviction and keeps you humble, especially when things feel murky or progress is painfully slow.
So it's about having this deeper anchor, leading with conviction even when it's uncertain or when the short-term results maybe aren't great or even costly, which leads us right into the people who walk with you, the team. What hidden assumptions might be guiding how we pick our teams? Are we maybe subconsciously prioritizing talent over, say, character?
Oh, absolutely. The framework definitely challenges us to look hard at our team-building priorities. It puts a really clear emphasis on unity, on character, maybe even over just raw skill or talent. There's a practical tool mentioned, the team chemistry grid. You actually plot out each team member based on their character, their chemistry with the team, and their sense of calling to the mission.
Interesting.
And this grid helps you see the team's balance or imbalance. Where are the gaps? What are the potential risks? Like you might have someone incredibly gifted, right? Amazing skills. Or maybe their character is questionable or they just don't mesh well with others. The grid makes that kind of thing really visible.
That's really insightful. But let's be real, discerning character can be tough, can it? Especially early on. Does Velazquez offer any, specific warning signs or red flags leaders should watch out for, beyond just first impressions?
Well, the source doesn't give a checklist of red flags for character specifically, but the focus on chemistry and calling kind of works towards that. Poor chemistry, for example, often brings character issues to the surface when pressure hits. Things like pride, or being defensive, or just lacking humility.
Oh, okay.
And if someone's calling seems off, it might show up as them pursuing personal gain instead of the shared mission. The practical step suggested is drafting a team covenant. This would cover shared values, how you operate together, how you handle conflict.
Like a team rulebook.
Sort of, but deeper. More about shared commitment. And the idea is you revisit it, maybe every 6 months, reaffirm it. It creates this structure for accountability and open communication. And that process tends to either strengthen character or, reveal where it's lacking. What's really key here is learning to tell the difference. Is the conflict we're seeing healthy friction, like good debate that sharpens ideas? Or is it a symptom of actual division pointing to deeper character or chemistry problems?
That's a crucial distinction. Okay, so that brings us to a really interesting pair of principles. Understanding the soil, which is about cultural research, and then establishing a life-giving presence. It seems like before you can really be a life-giving presence, you have to deeply get the environment, the soil you're planting in. How does Velazquez suggest we really dig into that soil?
Yeah, it starts by just challenging our own assumptions. We all walk into new situations with preconceived ideas, right?
Yeah.
The framework pushes you to actively look for potential toxins, or barriers in that cultural soil, things that could choke out growth later if you ignore them now.
Mm-hmm.
And it really hammers home the importance of listening. Listening deeply, listening long enough before you start talking or acting.
Mm-hmm.
There's this great exercise called the community immersion diary. It encourages you to literally spend a full day just hanging out in local community hubs. Could be a market, a coffee shop, a park, wherever people gather.
Mm-hmm.
And you just observe and record. What are the rhythms? What are people talking about? What seems important to them? What are their everyday struggles?
Just soaking it in.
Exactly. Trying to understand the community's actual heart needs, not just imposing what you think they need. You might notice, for instance, that family ties across generations are super important. That observation could totally shape how you design an initiative, suggesting it needs to involve different age groups to really connect.
Okay, so once you've spent time understanding the soil, then you shift to your actual presence in it. Villazes asks this really provocative question. What if your greatest sermon isn't words, but just the consistency of your presence? What would your life be preaching right now? How do we move from just understanding to actually embodying that life-giving
Right.
presence?
This is where the incarnational model comes into play.
Mhm.
It's about being with people before you start speaking to them.
Relationship first.
Exactly. Genuine relationship, not just broadcasting. The Presence Habit Tracker is a tool for this. It helps you set and monitor daily or weekly goals for being present in local spaces. Maybe it's volunteering somewhere, joining a local club, hosting neighbors for dinner. Simple stuff. The point is to increase your authentic visibility, to become a known, trusted face, someone genuinely engaged in the community's life.
Not just an outsider looking in.
Precisely. The sources also suggest doing ethnographic interviews with people who are insiders in the culture. This helps challenge your assumptions and refine your approach. And there's an authentic relational audit, basically asking yourself, are my interactions genuine or are they transactional? Am I here to connect or just to get something done or deliver my message?
Okay, so building on that real presence, the next step is finding key people, right? Finding the person of peace and then preparing the evangelistic toolkit.
Mm.
After all this listening and being present, how do you figure out who's just friendly versus who might be someone God has placed there as a kind of gateway, a relational key holder to wider circles?
Yeah, that's a critical discernment step.
Yeah.
Moving from just general presence to making strategic connections, the idea of a person of peace is key here. There's an exercise called relationship mapping. You basically sketch out your network in the community. Who are the connectors? Who are the influencers? Who seems genuinely seeking or open? And to figure out if someone might be this person of peace, the framework gives you these gatekeeper discernment questions.
What?
Things like, does this person genuinely welcome you? No? Right. Do they also seem open to or welcome the message or values you represent? And maybe the most crucial one, do they start introducing you to other people in their network?
Ah, the introduction part.
Right. If you're getting yeses to those questions, it's a strong sign this person could be a key relational bridge, opening doors to the wider community.
Got it. So once you have those connections and you're present, how do you prepare to actually share your message? Share it effectively, keep the core truth intact, but also make sure it actually lands, that it resonates with people.
Well, the framework sees evangelism less as a one-size-fits-all formula and more like an ongoing conversation rooted in listening.
Okay.
So it heavily emphasizes being culturally sensitive, but without watering down the core message. That's a fine line to walk. The gospel story audit and contextual storytelling exercises are designed for this. They involve prepping different versions of your core story or message.
Yeah.
Maybe a 30-second version, a 3-minute one, a longer 15-minute one, so you can adapt.
Be ready for different opportunities.
Exactly. And then it's about learning to use local things, maybe common proverbs, important festivals, cultural metaphors as bridges to connect the gospel truth to their world, making sure the message feels relevant and understandable within their specific context.
So you're not just parachuting in jargon.
Right. For instance, instead of launching into complex theology, you might start by referencing a local custom everyone understands or a shared community challenge, and then gently build a bridge from that familiar point to the core message you want to share.
That makes a lot of sense. Connecting the timeless to the timely. Okay, finally, this brings us to the end of the seed phase, measuring readiness for a lasting legacy. After all this deep foundational work, what signs, what maybe invisible markers should leaders look for to know, okay, it's actually time to move forward? How do we make sure we're listening to those foundational cues just as much as we might be watching visible metrics?
This is such a crucial point. It's about guarding against that pressure to launch something prematurely, maybe just to satisfy outside expectations or hit some arbitrary numbers.
Yeah, that pressure is real.
Totally. The readiness assessment mentioned, and really the whole framework, emphasizes valuing that invisible depth, valuing the strength and foundations over just visible numbers or a quick start. For you listening, it even floats this really provocative idea. What about intentionally delaying going public by 6 more months?
Wow, 6 months.
Yeah, and it's not about stalling. It's about using that time to really solidify those unseen foundations, believing that investment will pay huge dividends in resilience and impact later on. There's also a celebration milestones exercise. This encourages you to actually notice, record, and celebrate the small unseen wins.
Like what kind of wins?
Maybe a major breakthrough in your team's trust levels, or forging a really deep, authentic connection with a key community leader. Celebrating those just as much as you'd celebrate hitting a numerical target. It helps train your focus to value the foundational stuff.
And zooming way out now to the really big picture, this leads to that ultimate question of legacy, doesn't it? What if success isn't just about what you build right now, but about what actually lasts, what endures long after you're gone?
Exactly. That's the ultimate horizon. It connects the decisions you make today, as a leader, directly to the kind of spiritual legacy you might leave 10, 20, maybe even 50 years down the road. It really prompts you to think hard. Which of my current assumptions about growth, about success, about needing recognition, which of those might actually need to die for truly lasting, authentic fruitfulness to emerge? It's a really challenging thought, but also deeply impactful. Are you building something mainly for now, for yourself? Or are you truly building something designed to outlast you for the genuine good of others?
Wow, what a deep dive this really has been. As we kind of pull back now, what's the main thread you see running through all these principles, from the unseen roots right through to finding those key people?
I think it really comes down to this profound commitment to intentional preparation. It's a preparation that consistently values depth over just speed. It values people over just projects or programs. And it does all this with an eye toward ensuring a legacy that genuinely outlasts any single initiative or leader. It's really about recognizing that often the most powerful, most enduring work happens in those quiet, hidden preparatory phases.
That makes perfect sense. And for you, our listener, maybe a couple of practical things to take away and try. Consider doing your own bandwidth audit, noticing those recurring thoughts or worries that don't have clear actions tied to them yet. And maybe apply the priority filter before jumping into new tasks. Always ask, does this truly align with my core mission? What's the real cost if I delay this? Can I simplify it or maybe delegate it? And here's a final thought to chew on. How might embracing a slower, deeper process today, one really focused on prayer, on people, on genuine presence, how might that prepare whatever you're leading, your ministry, your project, any long-term goal, to truly outlast you tomorrow, leaving a legacy far richer, far more enduring than any quick launch or initial metric could ever capture?
Thank you so much for joining us on this deep dive into these vital principles of preparation and building for lasting impact.